Hello, everyone, and good afternoon from Dubai. I hope you are all safe and well. Before we begin, may I please check if my audio is clear and if you can hear me properly?
Yes. Yes, Krista.
Thank you.
You're autistic.
Thank you. So, welcome to our 89th live webinar. My name is Kriska, and I am delighted to be here with you today, together with the TDCC training team. And we are grateful to have you joining us for another meaningful session. And today's topic is our brain at work, rest and play. On behalf of TDCC, we would like to thank our 87 advocates from 10 countries who registered for this session. And to everyone joining us live here and on YouTube, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Please allow me to acknowledge our registrants from Australia, Egypt, India, Malawi, Pakistan, Philippines, South Africa, Tunisia, United Kingdom, and UAE. So wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Before we start, let me share a short video about TDCC and our esteemed speaker for today. Thank you.
Welcome to the TDCC Community Live webinar. TDCC stands for the Developing Child Center, located in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, UAE, established in 2012. We have been providing personalized support to over 1,000 children. We have over 80 dedicated and committed experts, and we work closely with parents and schools to ensure no child is left behind. We think different, we teach different. We empower, not limit children. Labels like autism, dyslexia and ADHD are not relevant or perceived as disabilities, difficulties or disorders that limit children's abilities. We believe that brilliance needs difference. The TDCC services are available in English, French and Arabic. The inclusive educational services nurture and support the developmental and educational needs and help empower each child to reach their full potential. Occupational therapy assists children in performing and achieving important learning and developmental skills they need in life. Psychomotor therapy is a healthcare profession that is based on a holistic view of the person and is involved in the treatment of different disorders. Speech and language therapy assists children who have disorders of speech, language, communication, and swallowing. Psychology provides both educational and clinical services, including counseling and parenting. ABA therapy focuses on improving specific behaviors. It is commonly practiced as a therapeutic intervention for individuals with autism. The specialist learning support. We assist in developing the academic and social development of students who need support in all these areas. BrainLinks at TDCC provides targeted brain-based programs designed to strengthen learning, regulation, and overall development through the Aerosmith program, the Neuralink process, and neurofeedback. And we design and host local and international training and workshops for practitioners, parents, caregivers, and educators. Just like this one today. We have a few rules to follow during the webinar. Please remain muted while the speaker is presenting. Please give your full attention to the presentation. We will be sending you the replay so you can review at any time. Please be interactive if the speaker requests your participation. During the question and answer session, we kindly request everyone to type their questions in the chat box and the speaker will address them.
TDCC is honored to welcome back Debbie Gilmore, a dedicated educational leader, for another insightful session in our webinar series. As the Executive Director of the Aerosmith program, Debbie brings a wealth of experience as a teacher, principal, and administrator. With a master's in education and graduate certifications in diverse learning, she is deeply passionate about the brain's role in learning and student success. Debbie has been a strong advocate for integrating neuroplastic programming into education to enhance cognitive functioning and foster lifelong learners. She pioneered an initiative to bring the Aerosmith program to schools and has since led its strategic growth, championing its transformative impact on students' lives. As both an educator and a parent, Debbie has witnessed firsthand the life-changing potential of the program for students and the communities that support them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Debbie Gilmore.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Debbie. I can hear you.
Fabulous. And you can see me. It's really wonderful to be back with everyone at TDCC and BrainLinks. I'm very excited to be here. I'm from Toronto currently, so a little cooler than in other parts of the world. If you're in Europe right now, I'm sorry you're dealing with those temperatures that you are. If you are in UAE, well, those temperatures are not so unusual, but it is really lovely to be with you. I'm very excited about today's presentation. It's a little different than what I presented for TDCC and BrainLinks previously, because today I really am focused on ourselves, on our own brains, because of which then if we focus on that, on our own brains, then of course we can focus on children. So I want you to find the chat, and because I'm going to ask you to put some answers in there in a moment. And let me put this presentation in context of what we've done before. If I can get, there we are. This is part of a series that Arrowsmith has done with TDCC and BrainLinks previously. And on the slide here, you will see all of the presentations that we've done. And I've put the link at the top to where you'll find those recordings. And why do I give you these? I give you this because many of the questions that you sent through may be answered by some of the other presentations that I've done. So I think it's probably important that you just note this. And it's really great that you'll get the recording of this, because I'm going to run through quite a bit of material today very quickly. And I won't be reading all of the slides, but you will have information on the slides when you review it to follow up anything that I said. So let's get started with our agenda. This is what I hope to cover today. As I said, it's going to be pretty quick run through. And how I'm going to do this, as you can see on this agenda, I'm going to start at very high level view, more than a bird's eye view, maybe more a view out of the window of the recent rocket and space crew that they had over the Earth recently. So a very high level view of the brain. And then I'm just going to drill down to practicalities. So I hope that suits you. Let's go. Let's do some brain facts. You know, how often do we think about what our brain is doing? Even just sitting in this presentation now, your brain is active and it's working really hard. So what is making that work? First of all, I'm going to, we're going to head into a brain quiz in a minute. So just find the chat, because you're going to need that in a moment. So, oops, what happened here? Did I stop sharing? No? I've lost my slides. Just sorry. Don't know what's, here we are. There we are, sorry. So we know the brain is complex, it is powerful, and it is absolutely amazing. It's so amazing what our brain does for us. You know, there's been centuries of work on studying the brain, all the way back to the 1500s. And we know some really important facts about the brain, that it has, from very simple tasks to complex tasks, the brain is always working for us. And it is designed of a series of highways and networks and connections. That's probably not new news to you. But I wonder if you know some of this information. So here are 5 questions. In the chat, I would love it if you put true or false beside these numbers. Put number 1, true or false, number 2, true or false. And I'll wait for a minute until you do that. Put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all in your chat all at once, because we're going to do this really more quickly than that's great. Some people answering that in there, great. A few more seconds. Well, thank you everyone for answering those questions. We will have those questions standing by for you now. Here we go. Here, let's just check the answers here. We only use 10% of our brain. True, I think I saw both answers here. Well, actually, it's false. Imaging shows that humans use nearly 100% of their brain over a 24-hour period, and even sleep requires activity from our brain. Interestingly, most of the tasks we use most areas of the brain. It does depend on what the task is, but absolutely, we're using 100% of our brain over the course of our day. What about number 2? People are either left-brained or right-brained. Also something you hear very, very often. What did you have, I wonder, as your answer to this? Well, that's false. While some brain functions are lateralized, so meaning it's in the left or the right hemisphere of the brain, they don't work in isolation. So many tasks involve both hemispheres of the brain. What about number 3? Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy. Yes, true. The brain is a high demand organ that requires constant fuel to maintain neural firing. Number 4, the brain stops growing and changing once you reach adulthood. False. Interestingly enough, when I was at Teachers College, I was taught that this was true. But we know now from decades of research that this is not true. The brain maintains neuroplasticity, which I'll explain a little bit further on in my slides, throughout life. Learning a new language physically alters the structure of the brain? True, because deep learning leads to the thickening of gray matter and the creation of new synaptic paths. We can't stop our brains from learning, and it's always changing. So throughout my presentation today, you are also going to get some brain facts. Here are brain facts number 1. It tells you some very specific information about our brain. Most importantly, how vast it is, what it's made up of. You can read this later on. But neurons travel really fast through our brains, and there's so many neurons. Did you know that your brain is unlike anyone else's brain? It's almost like your fingerprint. The brain has many, many networks. We have networks for memory, for executive function, for art, for writing, for making lists, for taking notes. Huge number of networks that we need in every single day, from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, and all the tasks in between. All these networks and various networks of the brain are working. I'm going to specifically talk about these four, or mention these four networks, because I'm going to come back to these later on in my presentation. So here are four really important networks of the brain. The default mode network, which is the network that says, I'm thinking. So the brain is thinking. The dorsal attention network, which is what's going on here. So I'm thinking what's going on in this particular moment. And the salience network, this is a really important network because this is the network that says what's important to me right now. And the frontoparietal network, or the executive control network, is how should I respond? That part of the brain that says, that makes the plan. So very, very important networks. And we know that these networks can grow stronger connections. Okay, so what is neuroplasticity? You probably already know this. This is the brain's ability to change. So if you've been to one of my webinars before, you know all about this, that the brain's ability to change its functional organization as well as its neural connections and its physical structure right across our lifespan. And as in that brain fact right at the beginning, it does not stop when we get to about age 12. It happens right across our lifespan. And there's some other really important information about neuroplasticity that I want you to know today. And I will come back to this as well through the course of my presentation. That neuroplasticity is a neutral concept. I mean, it's fantastic because we know the brain can change, but actually it's not positive or negative. The other thing that's really important to know, and again, I'll come back to this is in one of your questions, we have control over what our brain is doing. The brain is always changing. So that's just because we're learning. Our brain is plastic. We can't avoid that. And this is really important, the last fact here. The brain adapts to what it does most. And that's particularly important when we look at the positive and negative factors of neuroplasticity. So remember, the brain adapts to what it does most. So when we look at the negative neuroplastic effects on our brains, things like chronic stress, things like prolonged anxiety, chronic pain, sleep deprivation, non-stimulating activities, social isolation, inadequate nutrition, all of this, if this is a constant cycle or a constant state of being, it has a negative neuroplastic effect. Why? Because remember, the brain adapts to what it does most. So anxiety continues to go to trigger the brain to have more anxiety. Chronic stress, the same. Pain is the same. So it's so important to know this if we're in one of these negative cycles, because it's really important we can have control. The good thing is we have control over our brain. So it is possible to reverse some of that. And then, of course, we also have power over our brain to increase the positive factors. Remember, the brain will adapt to what it does most. So things like challenging ourselves through these neuroplastic principles, which I'll come back to. We have a growth mindset, exercise, mindfulness, social interaction, nutrition, sleep. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. But what I'd like to talk about just quickly here are these neuroplastic principles. Now, you'll see here on my slide, you've got that little image up here of the brain. That's when there's a fact here that answers one of the questions you've sent in. So that's a reminder that someone's asked a question here, and I will answer that. These are neuroplastic principles. So many people have said, what can I do with my children? What can I do for myself? Design activities around these neuroplastic principles. So novelty and complex, new and progressively challenging tasks. Cognitive, effortful processing. So designing something that gives you like a brain crunch so that there's a cognitive strain and there's effort involved, but it's not too hard. The strain needs to be there, but it's not something that's not attainable. It always has to be attainable. Active engagement. For any teachers in the room, you know this is so important for our students, but it's also important for ourselves that we always have to be actively engaged in that activity that we're doing and getting feedback and motive and rewards for the effort that we're putting in. And sustained attention, mass practice over time. The brain adapts to what it does most. And then different stimulation. It absolutely has to be very targeted and specific activation or stimulation of the brain. So the question that was asked here, why is it important for the brain to take a break during work? Because the brain, because of all these things, the effortful processing, the sustained engagement, the sustained attention and the active engagement, we need about 30 to 40 minutes on a particular task for that cognitive effort to make neuroplastic change. That's why it then needs a break. And anyone that's doing this sustained engagement and sustained attention and active engagement, you will know when your brain is starting to get tired, and then you know you need to just have a brain break. Fact 2 here. More facts around the brain. We gain new connections every single day. It's so positive. This statement by Donald Hebb, who's a Canadian, by the way, says, he stated this many, many decades ago, neurons that fire together wire together. So all of the brain's activities that occur together strengthen those connections and the interconnections. So you have different networks and you can strengthen the network itself, but you can also strengthen the network, the connections between networks, which is really, really important when you remember that most activities actually use multiple networks working together. It's so important. And that last statement here, deep learning leads to the creation of new synaptic paths. So what I'd like to now do is introduce the cognitive health framework. We like to talk about this at Arrowsmith because it's really important to the brain, and we're all about the brain. And we really want to, it's such a magnificent organ. We want to keep it fit and healthy. So I'm going to pull these sectors apart very quickly because some of this also answers many of the questions that came through from you. So let's take nutrition. There's so much information now about various nutrition, various diets that are promoted in various parts of the world. Every area of the world has its own nutritional guidelines. The bottom line is a healthy diet equals a healthy body equals a healthy brain. We need to focus on nutrition to have a healthy brain. The basic principle is what is good for the heart is good for the brain. Exercise, same thing, absolutely. What is good for the heart is good for the brain. There are many experts around the world that talk on exercise. And why do they do that? They talk about aerobic activity and muscle strengthening activities. These are both really important because exercise increases BDFN. If you don't know what that is, it's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And now BDFN is related to nerve growth and it's important for long-term memory. So if we enhance BDFN, it staves off cognitive decline, it staves off dementia and Alzheimer's. It doesn't overcome it, but it staves it off. It puts it off. And there's been many studies around that. It can stave it off for about 5 years. So what should we all be doing after this webinar? Go out and exercise. Sleep is very, very important. And we had a number of people who sent in questions about this, and I'll answer them in a minute. To get to long-term memory, we need a number of things. Go to your chat again. Have a look, answer this question. To get to long-term memory, what do we need? Do we need A, rest and eat? Do we need B, review and sleep? Do we need sleep and eat? Do we need exercise and sleep? Or do we need exercise and eat? Write that in the chat. Is it A, B, C, D, or E? Okay, let's see. Well, actually, we need all of these things. We need every single one of them. But what is really important is review and sleep, B. But we do need all of them. While some memories can be created without sleep, long-term memories depend on sleep. So we have the impact on the brain's ability to learn is memory and attention. That equals learning. So it's so important that we get enough sleep to help that learning process, to create those long-term memories. Some people asked in the questions that you sent through, how much sleep do adults need? How much sleep do children need? Well, it can range depending on our age. Newborns spend an average of 16 hours sleeping. 1-year-olds, 12 hours. 10-year-olds, 10 hours. 20-year-olds, 8 hours. And then when we get to our 30s and 40s, you need about 7 hours. When you get to your 50s to 70s, about 6 hours. Now, they're just rough averages. One of the most important things that I know is, though, the worst thing we can do is go to bed and think, oh my gosh, I'm only going to get 5 hours sleep and I'm supposed to get 7 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep. And then you spend a lot of time stressing about how much sleep you're not having. And that puts us, remember, the brain will adapt to what it does most. The more we stress about not getting enough sleep, the less sleep we will get. So even if you're getting rest, it's better than no rest. It's best for our brains to rest and obviously sleep. And if we can't get 8 hours sleep, at least if we're resting, that's more important than actually stressing over how much sleep we're not getting. So obviously the amount of sleep varies for all of us. There's really an individual component to that. So while these numbers are guidelines, I think it's so important just to know, A, you need some deep sleep, and rest is also very important. There's a lot of talk and there's a lot of information out there now on sleep hygiene. I highly recommend, if this is a difficulty, then have a look at some really good sleep hygiene. And of course, there's a lot of information about, screens before we go to sleep. Mindfulness is a really important practice. Why? Because it can help us calm our brains. There was someone actually asked a question, how do we calm our mind during rest? Well, mindfulness is the answer here. So I want to take a mindful moment right now I've been talking a lot. So you might want to close your eyes for this. I want you to be quiet and be still. Now I want you to put all of your attention on the sensation of breathing. Focus on your breathing. And while you do that, notice what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't follow on thoughts from what comes up. Just acknowledge it and let it flow through. And maintain your attention on breathing. And I'm sorry, I can't give you longer than that for your mindful break. But do you know what's happening when we have a mindful break as simple as that? We lower our heart rate, our respiration rate, our blood pressure, cortisol levels, stress levels. We increase our oxygen saturation rate. We focus on our default mode network. Remember, that's one of the I'm thinking, that's the I'm thinking network that I showed you right at the beginning. And we decrease activity in the amygdala. That is the fight, flight, or freeze aspect of our brain. So we decrease that. So I hope that answered some of the questions that people sent through. Next up, cognitive strengthening. Well, Arrowsmith is all about cognitive strengthening. That's exactly what we focus on. And the brain can be strengthened. The networks can be strengthened with intention. Remember, we have control over what we do. So we can control how we strengthen our brain. And you have to use those neuroplastic principles, which I put on, which was an earlier slide. So you can go back and have a look at that. So the cognitive exercises that we need to do for cognitive strengthening, they need to be satisfying and rewarding. They need to encompass new learning that demands that you pay attention to the details, to what you're seeing, hearing, feeling, or smelling. And activities that involve complex planning and performance challenges. And skills that never can be really mastered because you always want to increase the complexity, but not too hard. And then, of course, if we're strengthening our brain, we want to be able to use those cognitive capacities, because there's this concept in the brain, you use it or lose it. So if we've strengthened the brain, we want to be able to use that. And we do use it because why? We're using all of parts of the brain over a 24-hour period. So as long as we're doing that, we're leading regular lives and doing many, many activities through the course of our day, we will be using our cognitive capacities, because all of the different networks that come together to complete tasks, we're strengthening that over and over and over again. The good thing to remember is that the brain is not a muscle, but we can think about the principles of exercise in how we want to do that. We do it regularly, we do it, and we increase the complexity of physical exercise. And though in physical exercise, if we stop doing it, we can reduce some muscle tone, for example. That is not the case with the brain. The more we use it, the more it strengthens. So that's so important. And then the last concept here is it's counseling or therapy, or you think about what that does. So Velcro the positive. Why? Remember, the brain will adapt to what it does most. So you want to Velcro positive. So we want to, our brains shape who we are, and we can shape our brains. So things like reflection, gratitude, increased self-esteem, positive mental health, resilience, family relationships, reducing stress. These are all things that obviously therapy can do, or things that we can do for ourselves that help Velcro the positive. Go back to that slide of the negative factors of neuroplasticity and the positive factors of neuroplasticity. Growth mindset, positive self-esteem, resilience, less stress. This is all very important and not really an option in our lives. It's very important in our lives, as you can see from this whole cognitive health framework. So I hope that's helped a little bit. I hope it's answered some people's questions about the brain. So let's go back. You know this now. We talked about this right at the beginning. We use nearly 100% of our brains over a 24-hour period. This is also really important. And it goes back to nutrition and sleep and exercise. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy, even though it's only 23% of your body weight. We have to fuel our body well. And that cognitive health framework is all about that. That's why I showed that today. All right, so let's go here. What is our brain doing when we're playing? So I thought we'd start with adult playing. Let's have a look at this. So when you are going out and you're in a situation where you're catching up with friends, what is our brain doing? Well, we are scanning the room and we're looking for a familiar face. That's one task. Then we're trying to remember the names, how we met those people, what do they do. We're also trying to think about some small chat. You might have even been rehearsing that before you go to the event, especially if small chat doesn't come easily to you. And then you're having a discussion, a friendly debate, and then so you're participating in that conversation and looking at different sides of a story or different sides of a particular problem that you're debating. You're also focusing on conversation and avoiding distractions. You really needing to attend to the conversation. So these are all different, what we call cognitive functions of the brain. Object recognition, memory for information, symbol relations, predicative speech, symbolic thinking. These are all of what our brain is doing just by going out and playing with our friends as adults. What do we ask our children to do? So when they're on the playground at school, we're asking them also to do many things when they're out in the playground playing. So here are some of these things. So what I'm going to do now is break down these components of what we ask children to do when they go to school and play, and then of course sit in the classroom. So this is what this looks like. These are our cognitive functions that you see on this screen here, all the various functions that we have that Arrowsmith can work on. They're not the only functions of the brain. I just want to be clear here. But these are the cognitive functions that Arrowsmith can support. So when we're making friends, when we're playing with our friends, we need these 4 cognitive functions to be really working strongly. It's not just children, by the way. These are the same cognitive functions that we need for adults as well. And again, you don't need to remember these, but I would like you to try and focus on the colors of these. You don't need to remember the names, or you might be a color person, or you might be a name person. So whatever cognitive function is stronger for you, have a look as we follow these other aspects of the tasks that we ask our children to do when they go to school. We also expect them to follow rules and instructions, and think about playing on the playground. there are many hidden rules and instructions there. Because I don't know in your part of the world, but I know when I was in school as a teacher and I would observe children on the playground, you would see that we have in Australia, we have this game called handball. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but usually the unhidden rule is that the person that brought the tennis ball to play handball, they're the ones that set the rules. So today's rules could be different than tomorrow's rules, which could be different to yesterday's rules. So we are asking children to hold all of those rules in their head. So, and then we're also asking them to follow the rules and remember them. So these are the cognitive functions that they need. What about when they're in the playground or the sport field or trying to navigate hallways in the classroom, in the schools? These are all the cognitive functions they need in place. By this point, you're noticing some of the cognitive functions that are coming up again and again and again. And of course, there's the cognitive functions that are fundamental to learning. These are not, again, these are not all of the cognitive functions that are required for learning. All of the ones on the screen are, but these are the ones we draw on the most, depending on which task or which subject, which area of the curriculum we're asking students to work in. So you can see how complex our brains are in just simple tasks of, as adults, going to chat with our friends or asking children to play on a playground. There's so many complex aspects and cognitive functions that our brain is employing to do those tasks. So what happens when our brain is at work, which is, by the way, 24 hours a day? It's always on. So what is happening? So you know by now that most tasks are full-brained activities, and everything we do recruits multiple cognitive functions and neural networks. So what is a cognitive function? You've heard me talk about that a number of times now. It is simply a region of the brain or a network of regions that come together for a particular job. And here are some common and more utilized cognitive functions in our lives. And again, these are not used in isolation, but they are some of the cognitive functions that we use in our daily lives as adults and children as well when they're at school. So you can read that later on if we don't have time now. And we give these names, of course. So these are some of the cognitive functions that you saw in my screen before are explained here. So if you need to go back and match what they're doing, you'll be able to do it on this slide. One thing we do know is that these cognitive functions work on a continuum. And not all of the cognitive functions they won't all be in the same place on this continuum. Some will be superior, some will sit in the average range, some will be underperforming for sure. You know, when you do a task and you think, oh, that's a little bit challenging for me, I might need help with that. That's when you know that there's some cognitive functions being used that are underperforming. And for sure, all of us have felt that situation before. Not everything comes easy to everyone. So just remember that when you feel that brain crunch or you go, oh, that's a bit difficult. One of the cognitive functions or a multiple cognitive functions being used in that particular task are underperforming. And what we also know is that all of us have a unique profile. Remember I said our brains are unique to us? We have a unique cognitive profile. So what we know from our research that we've seen in our work, that our cognitive profiles are, how our cognitive functions are on that rating scale, they are all over the place. And so we all have a unique cognitive function. If you want to test that out and you want to learn a little bit more about your own cognitive functions, you can do this questionnaire. You'll see the link here and you'll be able to type it out when you get this recording. That is, you can fill in the questionnaire. It takes about 20 minutes and it will give you a report at the end that tells you where your cognitive functions or that of your own or someone else you know or a child or a student, and it will give you a report on what that cognitive profile may look like. Another brain fact: targeted cognitive exercise can strengthen specific functions of the brains that are underperforming. But not just those underperforming. It can also be for cognitive functions that are average or above and that we want to get stronger. And I will, later on, I will talk about one in particular that needs to be really strong. One thing that I do want to mention, and it came up in question that people had, and that is cognitive function versus skill. Sometimes there's a bit of a misunderstanding about that. A cognitive function is not a skill, but a cognitive function is the underlying brain process that is required to learn a skill. So when we're learning a skill like reading, writing, even doing a jigsaw, underneath that, look below that and look below the task or the skill and think about the cognitive functions that are required to learn the skill. That's where cognitive function sits. And there was a question about what skills are most important for success. So these main cognitive functions that I showed you before, they are the main cognitive functions that need to be strong for us to get through our lives and do most things effortfully and efficiently. So we need to strengthen those cognitive functions so that the skills become easy and the tasks become easy. I'm going to focus on, just for a minute or two, memory and attention. I alluded to this earlier on when I was talking about sleep. Remember, memory and attention, I said equals learning. Someone asked a question: how do we maintain attention, regulate emotions, and engage in learning? It's important for us to focus on those aspects. Memory and attention equals learning. So let's have a look at the cognitive functions that sit underneath. Remember, sitting underneath what looks at memory. There isn't just one memory. Now that might be a bit challenging for some people to hear, but actually there's different types of memory. Because I think if I asked you, some people would say, oh yes, I've got a really good memory, or I don't really have a good memory. But what is it a memory for? Because I think that we all have good memories for certain things and good memories for, and not so good memories for other tasks that we're trying to remember. And this might explain why, because look at all the cognitive functions, and this is probably not all of them. Look at the cognitive functions that are sitting under this term memory. I'm going to break these down for you. Symbol relations. Now, I said I would talk about the cognitive function that is most important for learning. It's this first one, symbol relations. It is used in every single task that we do. Symbol relations is the most important cognitive function that we need to, I would argue, need it at superior level. In this day and age, we need this at superior level because it is where it helps comprehension, understanding, logical reasoning, and critical thinking. For any memory, you need to be able to understand information. This is the cognitive function that helps us understand information. Then, of course, we have memory for specific pieces of information. Then there's the memory for sequential logic. Then there's memory for words, like the filing cabinet in our head, to pull out a piece of the word to name something. That's lexical. Then there's Broca's. Oops, sorry, I need to change the slide for this. Then there's Broca's. Broca's is phonemic memory. Then we have quantification sense. that like the calculator in our head, the memory for numbers, holding number in our brain. And then we have motor symbol sequencing. This is the automatic motor memories. We have automatic motor memories when we're writing, when we're speaking, when we're reading. We have symbol recognition, remembering symbols such as letters and numbers, chemical symbols. We have object recognition. Remember when we're walking into a room as an adult and we're looking around the room to see who we remember here or who we know? That's a memory for faces, which is different than memory for symbols. It's a different function. And then we have spatial reasoning, remembering our way through a city or through a house or through a classroom or through the office block. These are all cognitive function used in memory. And I'm pretty certain as I went through some of those, some of you would say, oh yeah, I'm good there, or that's not so good for me. So I'm going to do the same thing with attention. And this is a little easier because these two cognitive functions are super important. Again, symbol relations, really, really important. Because it's responsible again for understanding, connecting ideas, processing complex relationships. And in this day of AI, it is very important for all of us to have superior critical thinking and logical reasoning. It's absolutely, that's a whole different webinar, but it's really important. And then, of course, we have symbolic thinking. This is part of the prefrontal cortex. It's part of the executive function, which is attention. Remember the attention control network. It's one of those networks that I talked about before, right at the beginning. You can go back to that when you have a look, when you get the recording. But that's really important, that is very strong, and it keeps our attention. What is important in this very moment? What can I dismiss and not focus on? And what do I need to attend to? Now, sometimes people are said to have attentional difficulties, and it can be because of a cognitive load. Now, you've seen what I've put up here, all these cognitive functions that we need working well in our lives for our lives to be a little more simple than they could be, than they might be. And that cognitive load can come about because some of the cognitive functions are underperforming that are critical in our lives. Those cognitive functions here for that nonverbal communication, memory, reading, sequential thinking, mental calculation, if any of these are underperforming, it puts a cognitive load on our brain. It might not mean that we are not attentive. It could mean that we're not understanding. It could mean that the cognitive functions that I require to do a particular task are underperforming, so that there's this load. And as children, what we know in the classroom is that they'll try and avoid those tasks. And sometimes as adults, we make them easier for them. So, but what we also know is once we strengthen the cognitive functions that are required for those tasks, the cognitive load goes away and then the attention comes back. All right, we're on our last few minutes now, so I'm really going to run through my last few slides here. Brain and behavior. To think about the brain and behavior, we need to think with a cognitive lens. Many people ask me about some strategies that you can help children with behavior. I think before we do that, before we think of strategies, I think we have to use the cognitive lens that I'm suggesting here, because you will know as an adult, with your friends, with family members, with children, as professionals that work with children, you will see some children here in these descriptors that I've written on the screen. If you take a cognitive lens to these behaviors and then think about which cognitive functions are underperforming, to see some of these behaviors that we're not necessarily, we don't like to see in children or in other people. If you take a cognitive lens approach, I promise you, you will work with these people with more understanding and compassion. And from there, you'll work out the strategies that are most appropriate because you're using that cognitive lens. Remember, there's an intricate link between learning and behavior. And what is it? It's the brain. And the good news is that we can enhance the cognitive capacity. And when we do that, we increase learning capabilities, we increase positive behaviors, and we decrease the challenging behaviors. And of course, this all leads to cognitive enhancement, lifelong learning. When we enhance cognitive capacity and we add in the academic curriculum for children or any learning that we're doing ourselves, that's cognitive enhancement, and that leads to lifelong learning. We talk about lifelong learning a lot. Learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. However, we have to have the cognitive capacity for the learning. So by enhancing that, we get to really efficient and effective learning. A quick few facts about Arrowsmith. Right now, you already know it's a cognitive program. It enhances the brain. It's backed by science, uses the principles of neuroplasticity, and it strengthens the brain to learn efficiently and effectively. I'll let you read these. I've already talked about these neuroplastic principles, and every one of Arrowsmith's cognitive exercises are designed around those principles. We are around the world, thankfully in Dubai, offering many programs to many people, children and adults alike, and we've been around for 48 years. And right now, I'm going to hand over to Emma, who is from TDCC and BrainLinks, and I'll just do that. Emma, I've got a couple of other slides, but I'll stop. Maybe, I don't know. Let me stop sharing then, and then we'll come in. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Debbie, for your very well put together webinar. Very informative. So we are lucky enough to offer Arrowsmith at the Developing Child Centre. We have quite a few clients, age ranging from 6 to 60 years old. Arrowsmith, as you've heard, is a neuroplasticity program that helps develop the cognitive functions in the brain. So if you're interested, if you know a child or an adult that's looking to enhance their brain, or if, like you've listened to Debbie and you're thinking of a certain person that has certain struggles with certain cognitive functions, we are lucky enough to have quite a few trained teachers in Arrowsmith who offer multiple different classes at different times. Now you can fill out our questionnaire online. Also, Debbie's sent in to get a rough idea. There's also the option of having an Arrowsmith assessment, which then allows you to be tested on all the cognitive functions that Arrowsmith works with, and you're then able to find out where you are in a 12-point scale. After we have that, then we're able to do an individualised individualised programme for you, because we'll know your cognitive profile. There is the alternative where if an assessment isn't suitable for some people, or if they've already had multiple assessments, we are able to put clients onto a generic programme to allow them to be able to work on their cognitive functions. So if you're interested, please get in touch and we will be able to give you for some more information. In the meantime, if you want to look at our Instagram, it's BrainLinks by TDCC, and also you can find us on TDCC website. But thank you, Debbie, and I'll pass it back over to you.
Thanks, Emma. I'm going to just share my last couple of slides because then you'll have it on the recording. So I just want to make sure I do that for you. Okay, so as you've got all of the details here, oops, if I give you the right slide. Oops, here we are. Do it again. There we are. You've got all the contact details there for Emma, for BrainLinks. So please contact them. That questionnaire, as Emma said, that I had on that link I had on my slide will inform BrainLinks that you've filled it in. And it gives you an option to have them contact you. These are the questions that I have here that people asked, and I just wanted to quickly go through these. Number one, how does the ability to retain information affect reasoning of skills of children? Well, actually, that cognitive function of symbol relations is responsible for reasoning, comprehension, helps retain information, and it is absolutely necessary for attention and for memory. So remember that memory plus attention equals learning. Symbol relations is implied in all of that. Second question, how can students be more productive? Actually, they need really easily working brains. They need brains that work efficiently and effectively. So that's how they can be more productive, because they're not spending or lingering on time to do a particular task because it's more effortless. How can educators distinguish between lack of motivation and genuine cognitive overload? That was such a really good question, because it's very difficult to kind of pull that apart. I think using the cognitive lens approach is really important. And in particular, you may want to do the questionnaire for that child that you're working with, because it will give you the cognitive functions that are perhaps underperforming or the ones that are stronger. And that will give you a cognitive lens on those children. That will help you work it out. And the last one there, what is the impact of digital distractions on the brain? That's a whole webinar, but bottom line is attention is affected. And though we can increase attention. And again, I just leave you with that information and remind you that we have another webinar coming up from one of my colleagues on the September 11. And she'll be looking at reading, writing, maths and focus. And then later on in the year, I'll come back and do the last one here. And so thank you, everyone. Let me stop sharing now. Thank you, everyone, sorry to take you a little over time today. And I know that the folk at TDCC will give you another message.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for the informative session. And of course, thank you everyone for joining us here today and on YouTube live stream. And we will be sending you the replay of this video. Thank you so much, Debbie. It's so nice to see you. And also, please stay tuned for the TDCC announcement, including the next webinar schedule that we have. We'll have a lovely weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Once again for joining us today. Before we conclude, we would also like to take a moment to share some of the services, programs, and upcoming initiatives available at the Developing Child Center. Upcoming webinar series. As part of our continued commitment to raising awareness, promoting education, supporting child development, and empowering families, TDCC continues to present insightful webinar topics led by expert speakers and practitioners. Our summer camps are now open for registration. Our Inclusive Education Summer Program offers 7 weeks of engaging activities designed by specialist educators, speech therapists, and occupational therapists. Our 3-week phonics summer camp uses evidence-based multisensory strategies to strengthen reading, spelling, decoding, and confidence, led by dyslexia specialist Zara Mirza. Our play-based speech and language intensive summer camp supports children's communication, interaction, and language development through purposeful play. Our core educational programs. Beyond our webinars, TDCC also offers a range of educational and therapeutic programs designed to meet the unique needs of every child. Early Intervention Program. Our Early Intervention Program in Abu Dhabi supports young children in building essential developmental, communication, social, and learning skills during the most important early years of growth. Intensive Educational Program in Dubai. Our intensive educational program provides structured and individualized support for children who need focused intervention to strengthen their learning, behavior, and school readiness skills. The program offers Early Intervention Program, School Readiness Program and Life Skills Program guided by our multidisciplinary team. Psychology and Family Support Services. At TDCC, we also understand the importance of emotional well-being, behavior, and family guidance in a child's overall development. Psychology Services. Our psychology services help children and families better understand emotions, behavior, development, and mental well-being through professional guidance and support. Educational Psychology. Our educational psychology services help identify learning needs, cognitive strengths, and challenges so children can be better supported in school and beyond. Parenting Services. Through our parenting services, we empower families with practical strategies, guidance, and support to help them confidently navigate their child's developmental journey. Counseling for children, teens, and adults. We also offer counseling for children, teens, and adults, providing a safe and supportive space to work through emotional, behavioral, social, and life challenges at every stage. Social, emotional, and behavioral assessments. Our social, emotional, and behavioral assessments help identify the emotional and behavioral factors affecting a child's daily functioning, relationships, and success at home or in school. Comprehensive assessments. To better understand each child's individual needs, TDCC also offers a range of specialized assessments. Multidisciplinary assessments. Our multidisciplinary assessments bring together different specialists to provide a holistic understanding of a child's strengths, needs, and developmental profile. Developmental assessments. Our developmental assessments help identify a child's progress across key areas such as communication, motor skills, social skills, and learning. Dyslexia assessment. This assessment helps identify signs of dyslexia and provides valuable insight into a child's reading, spelling, and language-based learning needs. Speech and language therapy assessment. Our speech and language therapy assessment looks at a child's communication abilities, including understanding, speaking, listening, social communication, and speech clarity. Occupational therapy assessments. Our occupational therapy assessments help identify challenges related to sensory processing, motor skills, attention, coordination, and everyday independence. Sleep assessment and intervention program. This program helps identify sleep-related challenges and provides practical strategies to support healthier sleep routines and better daily functioning. Psychomotor therapy. Psychomotor therapy supports the connection between movement, emotions, behavior, and learning. Through guided activities, it helps children strengthen body awareness, coordination, emotional regulation, confidence, and overall participation in everyday life. Speech, language, and communication support. Communication plays a vital role in every child's confidence, learning, and connection with others. That is why TDCC offers a range of services to support speech, language, and communication development. Speech and language therapy. Our speech and language therapy services support children in developing communication, understanding, expression, articulation, and social interaction skills. Feeding therapy. Our feeding therapy supports children who experience difficulties with chewing, swallowing, food acceptance, or mealtime routines in a supportive and gradual way. Play therapy. Through play therapy, children are supported in expressing feelings, processing experiences, and developing emotional regulation through the natural language of play. Occupational therapy and daily living support. TDCC also provides occupational therapy and daily living support to help children become more confident, regulated, and independent. Occupational therapy. Our occupational therapy services help children improve the skills they need for daily life, including play, learning, motor coordination, attention, and independence. Sensory integration therapy. Through sensory integration therapy, children who have difficulties processing sensory information can become more regulated, focused, and comfortable in everyday settings. Handwriting program. Our handwriting program helps children strengthen the fine motor, visual motor, and coordination skills needed for clearer and more confident writing. Toilet training program. Our toilet training program provides structured support to help children build readiness, confidence, and independence in toilet training. Listening therapy. Our listening therapy is designed to support attention, auditory processing, communication, and learning through targeted listening-based intervention. Tomatis therapy. We also offer Tomatis therapy, a sound-based intervention that supports listening, attention, language, emotional regulation, and overall brain development. Specialized therapeutic interventions. For children who may benefit from more targeted intervention, TDCC also offers a number of specialized therapeutic services. The Arrowsmith Program. An evidence-based cognitive training program that strengthens the brain's learning functions to create lasting change. It is done online and available for children, teens, and adults. Neurofeedback therapy. Our neurofeedback therapy helps train the brain toward healthier patterns that can support attention, regulation, emotional balance, and overall functioning. Neuralink process therapy. Our Neuralink process therapy supports brain-body connections that can positively influence regulation, learning, attention, and emotional development. ABA therapy. Our ABA therapy uses evidence-based strategies to support communication, learning, behavior, social skills, and everyday independence. Educational therapy. Our educational therapy provides individualized support for children who need help with learning skills, academic confidence, and school-related challenges. Dyslexia and Dysgraphia Intervention Program. This supports children with reading and writing difficulties through targeted intervention that builds stronger literacy and written expression skills. Summer Intensive Program. During school breaks, our Summer Intensive Program offers focused support to help children continue progressing in key developmental and academic areas. Phonics Boot Camp. And through our Phonics Boot Camp, children can strengthen foundational reading skills by building confidence in sounds, letters, decoding, and early literacy. Parent and caregiver empowerment. At TDCC, we believe that empowering families is an essential part of every child's progress. Caregiver training. Our caregiver training equips parents and caregivers with practical tools and strategies to better support a child's development in everyday routines. Empower Me program. Through our Empower Me program, families receive knowledge, guidance, and hands-on support tailored to their child's unique needs.